pre-workout and peri-workout nutrition common sense. Let's go with that. That's not a good title, but we'll stick with it. Whenever you're at rest, right, something like 3 to 4 milliliters of blood pass through the muscle tissue per minute. Okay, but during training, it's like 200 to 300 milliliters, and I believe the highest recorded is 400 milliliters of blood per 100 grams of muscle per minute. Whoa, wait, we went from 3 to 4 to up to 400 milliliters of blood through the muscle per minute? So you mean to tell me that whenever you're exercising and you're working out, your blood flow to the muscle group that's being worked is massively increased? Okay, yeah, so let's just use some common sense here. So people will argue with me, oh, peri-workout nutrition doesn't matter and pre-workout nutrition doesn't matter and all this stuff like that. But this time where you're training is the highest level of blood flow through the muscle that you're going to experience the whole day. Wouldn't it make sense then for you to have some amino acids on board, maybe even some glucose, to drive those nutrients into the muscle? See, blood flow is essential for healing and repair. So if you have a muscle strain, you put heat on it. Why? Because it increases the blood flow. It causes vasodilation. We have research now showing that ice is actually bad because it causes vasoconstriction. It reduces the blood flow to the damaged tissue. So when you have damaged tissue, you want more blood flow. Okay. So with that in mind, all right, you're going to go do some heavy squats, and all this extra blood flow is going to come to your legs. Because normally you get 3 milliliters of blood per 100 grams of muscle, right, per minute. And now you could get up to 400. I'm not saying you're going to be that guy that gets 400. You're probably going to be somewhere in the middle like normal people, 200 to 300 milliliters, which is still massive compared to the 3 milliliters that you normally are getting when you're sitting at rest. So, wouldn't it make sense then for us to make sure that we consume some protein before we go train? Yes, it does. And then maybe during training, you might want to consume something like essential amino acids, just because I find that that's actually easier to digest for most people. If you're a badass like me, you just drink whey protein all the time because it's the cheapest. So even during your workout, when you're squatting, you're just sipping on whey protein. And I know people are going to be like, oh no, refractory window, 3 hours, blah, blah, blah. No. Training itself stimulates muscle protein synthesis. And I know what you're going to say now. Well, it doesn't matter because protein synthesis stays elevated for 48 hours in beginners. In absolute untrained beginners, muscle protein synthesis stays elevated for 48 hours. But you're not a beginner. And so in trained individuals who aren't even really all that strong, they're not advanced when you look at their numbers, it stays elevated for about 6 hours. Now that's people who aren't even very strong. They've just been training for a few years. What do you think it's like in a person who's been training for 20 years, 10 years? What do you think it's like for a person who's already at their limit? Maybe it stays elevated for a few hours, if that? I have no idea because they don't do studies on people who are at that elite level, okay? But if trained college males who have been working out for 2 years only stay elevated for 6 hours compared to absolute beginners who stay elevated for up to 48 hours, I bet you that guy that steps on the stage for the Olympia probably stays elevated for less than 6 hours, okay? So, if we just wanted to use common sense here, blood flow is massively increased during your training. Therefore, you should probably want to consume some protein, some carbs, because you want glycogen and glucose. Insulin is also your friend. If you time insulin properly, insulin helps you store anything. Insulin doesn't care. Insulin is awesome because it'll store protein, it'll store carbs, it'll store fats. It doesn't care. So getting some protein and some carbs in before training to drive more nutrients into the muscle cells, right? And then, of course, during your training, consuming essential amino acids, maybe even some, I'm actually not a fan of the highly branched cyclic dextrins. I don't think that they were any better than whenever I just used cheap dextrose, and I do like Vitargo though, which I seem to digest that very well. That's the only reason why I like Vitargo. I've never noticed any kind of sloshing around in my stomach or anything weird. If I drink Gatorade, it just kind of sits in your stomach. It doesn't feel very good when you're training really hard. Vitargo goes down easy. So anyways, yeah, that's what I got for you. So if we have this massive increase in blood flow, might as well take advantage of it. This is just common sense to me. You shouldn't need a study to tell you this. 100 times more blood flow into the muscle. Yeah, this would probably be a good time to drive some amino acids in.